Look, Rekt started out as the Rekt guy NFT project. I would be stupid to not put my everything into this opportunity because it's probably the biggest opportunity that I do. I've actually stopped trading pretty much. All I've done is work on Rekt.
What's more fun? Is it trading or building a company?
That's a good question. That's really the $1 million question. I believe we will see a big alt season, and I think we're on the brink of it.
Meet Ovie Faruq, better known as OSF, digital artist, entrepreneur and co-founder of Rekt Guy and Rekt Brands. After nearly a decade on Wall Street, Ovie left finance to pursue Web3 full-time, building one of the space's most recognizable cultural brands. In this episode, he shares the journey from trading floors to NFTs, how Rekt became a 350 million token, how he sold 1 million cans, and what advice he gives to a new founder and investor.
I think it's important to understand that Rekt is what we call a brand coin.
If we talk about the difference between a meme and a brand coin.
Moving into meme coins where it just kind of feels like, your brain just feels dead, you know what I mean?
Looking ahead for the rest of this year, next year, what's in it for Rekt? What are you excited about?
Yeah, it's a good question. So,
before we continue, I would like to ask you for a favor. New Era Finance is designed and started to educate you about the future of finance. And I think that blockchain and Web3 is going to rebuild everything that we know about finance. And that's through those guests and the in-depth conversations that we have. However, more than 80% of you are watching this without being subscribed. And if we get more subscribers and more views, and we can start building this community, we can get better guests, we can improve the content, and we can start building. And in that way, we can start educating you even more. So I would like to ask you for a simple favor to check whether you are subscribed. And if you're not, please do, so we can start and continue to build this channel towards a bigger channel to help you all. Thank you very much and enjoy the episode. Welcome to have you on the show, Ovie. It's good to have you on. We have been in touch together over the years. Looking at the markets right now, what is the most interesting news item or event that you've seen in the past 2 to 3 weeks that basically got your attention?
yeah, I mean, for me, it has to be the economic data, right? Like we've had a very low payrolls number. We've had quite a big revision for the data for all the prior year, or the 12 months prior, and inflation data has also been in line / low on PPI. So, the whole year, the last few months, ever since we had the first rate cuts back in 2024, has just been about like when rate cuts. We maybe haven't had strong enough data for it to happen yet, but I think in the last 2 or 3 months, it's there. So for me, that's the main focus of markets. I think that's going to be the driver of crypto, traditional assets. I think if we get, we'll get a cut for sure on Wednesday. I'm not sure when this airs, but we'll get a cut for sure. But it's more about what Powell says about future cuts over the following months, and that's the thing I think is super important. So for me, that's basically the only thing I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, we are recording this show the day before the Fed is actually going to do the rate cut, and we are putting it live afterwards, which is always tricky if you try to discuss very market-dependent stuff. I'm having it the same with my YouTube, but it's also for our fund that is very actively on the markets. Could be a stressful moment, and I think that a lot of people are expecting a lot of the rate cut to come, but what if the markets all of a sudden puke by like 10 to 20%. It came to my mind in the past few days that is actually a scenario that we overhype the Fed rate cut. In the short term, we have a correction because everybody goes along, and then after a month time, it just corrects back up again. What's your expectation?
Yeah, look, there's a school of thought that it's priced in because we all know the data. The probability, the rates are pricing in a probability of like 99.9% of a cut, of a 25-bit cut, at least, possibly more, but I think it'll be 25. So there's an argument to say it's priced in, but in my opinion, rate cuts are never truly priced in. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have money in a savings account and you're earning 4%. one month you get an email that says, okay, now your rate's 3.5%. You're like, oh, that sucks, but whatever. Next month it says it's 3%. Next month it's 2.5%. And then you're like, okay, this kind of sucks. Like, when I get to 2%, I'm not earning any interest anymore. I need to reallocate that, put it into equities, put it into something else. So now imagine that same concept, but on a much, much bigger scale, on an institutional level. And we're not talking about, your thousands of dollars in your savings account. We're talking about like billions, if not trillions of assets out there that's in fixed income that won't reallocate until cuts actually happen. That's the thing. They will not reallocate until they have, until cuts happen, or there's a very high probability of future cuts continuing to happen. And so I think until you see the cuts and you see them happen continuously, we won't really see the full effect of it. I do agree with you, like we could see the cut and then markets could sell off because everyone's like, oh, it's priced in. But I think that's a dip to buy, in my opinion, because if Powell says, look, inflation has stayed low and I'm worried about the labor market data right now and we need to have a few months of cuts, then I think that's very, very bullish for markets. And as those cuts happen, assets will reallocate to riskier, further down the risk curve. So, you could have a short-term sell the news, but I wouldn't fade what's to come, in my opinion.
I think as long as it's not really getting extremely recession related, it should be fine. And I think I agree with the fact that the impact of the rates is significant. And if people that are listening recall the dates that we had the rate hikes in Japan, it took like nearly 2 to 3 weeks to have the actual impact of the rate cuts with those big crashes that took place in August last year. And we had another one a few months later. So it's very likely that we are probably going to see the big impact of the first rate cut to be taking place a few weeks later. But if I talk to you about trading, my first question is, what's more fun? Is it trading or building a company?
That's a good question. That's really the $1 million question. Look, I've been trading for the majority of my life. Like I started trading when I was like 16, lost loads of money as a teenager, which was good training. So I think trading has always sort of been like in my blood and something I've always done. But I think I got to a point maybe last year or the year before where, moving from traditional finance into crypto and then within crypto moving into meme coins, where it just kind of feels like, your brain just feels dead. You know what I mean? Like I just felt like, okay, sure, like you make money on this thing, but it's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. And it kind of felt not very rewarding. So, I like trading and I think it's something I will come back to at some point in time. But for me right now, what's really interesting is building a project, taking something from zero to becoming quite big and all the challenges and triumphs that come with it as well. It's been a very interesting journey for me. And honestly, I'm really enjoying doing it. Like, I feel like when we achieve a goal, I feel like the reward for that is so much stronger on a personal level than, making 10 times my money on just a random pump fun coin or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a different thing. But right now I'm really enjoying the building side of things for sure.
Well, I can agree. It's way more fulfilling. Trading is usually just doing the same thing over and over again. And then it's just a number that goes up and down. We're going to talk about Rekt for a lot. But first, how is this cycle for you compared to the previous cycle? Everybody keeps talking about, this cycle is going to be the same. We're going to be peaking in like 30 days from now. It's still the 4-year cycle, but in my opinion, it's completely different than the previous one. What's your take on that one?
I'm with you on that for sure. And I've watched a few of your videos and some of the stuff you've spoken about. And I'm mainly in agreement. I've never really truly believed in the 4-year cycle. I think it's kind of been more coincidence that certain big macro things have happened when crypto has crashed, apart from maybe like the 2018 crash. That was right after Bitcoin futures came. But I think the game has changed. The game has changed massively in the last 12 months because we've gone from a situation where, the SEC is telling you crypto is bad and it's going to get regulated, and everyone in TradFi, hating it and not wanting to touch it. We've done a complete U-turn in that to where you now have Bitcoin and Ethereum and many more ETFs to come. You have the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, managing trillions of dollars, entering that space. You have the president of the USA being pro-crypto, whether it's crime season or not crime season, doesn't really matter. He's pro-crypto, and a complete U-turn in the SEC in terms of how they want to regulate it. And now, especially in America, which is still the most powerful economy in the world, you can tell crypto is going to be a massive part of business and economy there. So anyone who was like, okay, I don't want to touch crypto because it's a scam, they've done a complete U-turn. It's like, now I have to figure out how to be involved in crypto, otherwise I'm going to fall behind. And so all of these things are just massive, massive changes, which I think make it break out of a 4-year cycle. Now, I think Bitcoin will definitely break out of a 4-year cycle. Altcoins and other stuff, it's sort of in, I think they're in their own world still, I think. Like, I believe we will see a big alt season, and I think we're on the brink of it, and I think it's coming. But I do think you will see more of a cyclical movement in altcoins where you'll have this big blow off top and it will sell back down again and then it will build up again. Whereas I think Bitcoin will just stay very strong for a very long time because, we've gone from Bitcoin being something that retail guys like you and I trade to something that hedge funds and VCs trade, to something that now the world's biggest asset managers trade, to now sovereign nations accumulating it, potentially with the US buying it. And it's just too big to be compared to anything else for Bitcoin, in my opinion. So that I think is broken out the cycle. Altcoins probably still have some kind of a cycle, I would say. But I'm definitely in the alt season camp. I think we'll see one.
It's also, if we look at Bitcoin and the institutional interest, a lot of institutions are using Bitcoin to just generate a passive yield on it. Either they have it on spot and have covered calls strategy, or whatever strategy that they utilize while trading Bitcoin makes the dynamics completely different compared to the impact of the halving in itself. But altcoins are having 6 months up, 6 months down, basically, since like 2022. It's just shown that the second half of the year is a better period in time than the first half of the year. And that changes the entire dynamic of how an altcoin should be directed or whether they can become a blue chip. And I wondered, like, how is that for you as a builder and a founder? How are you going to tackle the volatility in planning out, the financial planning or any step that you'd like to take for a project by yourself?
Yeah, it's hard, and it's something that I think we have to consider. Like any project which has a token that's not Bitcoin, that's an altcoin, you have to think about the cyclicality of it. Like, it's great because now we can say, oh, look, Rekt coin is at whatever it is, 350 million market cap, and this is really good and everything. But you have to have a plan for if you get like a 99% nuking altcoins again or whatever it is. I think the most important thing is when you have periods like this where altcoins are doing very well and there's a lot of interest in it and a lot of retail interest in it, you have to use the energy that gives you to create stable cash flows and stable revenues for the business and create something that lasts outside of just crypto. So, for us, we're a drinks company and we have revenues from selling drinks. And I think something like 75% now of our revenues come from like fiat payments. So it's not even crypto. But the goal for us, the key for us is like, can we use this crypto strength to actually kickstart a fully fledged drinks company? And then can we start generating meaningful revenues from traditional supermarkets, wholesale, retailers, that kind of stuff, such that if crypto goes down 90%, it doesn't really matter because people are still buying drinks to buy drinks, if that makes sense. So the way I view it is crypto gives you a head start because you can reward users with an airdrop. No other traditional company does that. So it gives you a head start. It gives you an accelerated way to build your IP, build your community, and generate sales for your product. But then you have to navigate that tricky step of converting that into sustainable revenues and cash flows, such that if you drop 90%, it doesn't really impact you too much. And that's the tricky thing. That's where we're at now. Like, can we get this conversion? And that's what we're working on.
Well, not only that, I think there are a lot of great tech builders in the space, but then they get destroyed by tokenomics, no functionality, no demand, wrong KOLs, bad exchanges, whatever is out there. But Rekt is not only the drinks. It is a whole ecosystem of Rekt, basically. Where does, for you, Rekt come from, and what is it right now?
Yeah, so look, Rekt started out as the Rekt Guy NFT project, which was like a random, profile picture collection I made.
A meme.
Yeah, a meme that I made like 3 years ago. It was a free mint. We didn't charge anything for it. And honestly, like, I was just kind of messing around in my spare time. I spent my evenings and weekends making it, and I just launched it and I thought it would be at zero. I didn't think it would be worth anything, right? And because in 2022, when we launched it, everything crashed, people got wrecked. I think it kind of captured this moment in time quite well. And, we had this crazy bear market for the next 2 years. And it's almost like people found it a place to drown their sorrows. It was like home for everyone who was wrecked, basically. So over those 2 years, we've just built like a very, very strong community just from like this meme and, people being on Discord and people still sticking around in crypto, even though, we were all down really bad. And I think that's when we realized that, like, okay, there's something here to this movement. Like, Rekt is, sure, there's Rekt Guy, but, everyone in crypto understands Rekt. Everyone has been wrecked. And it's not just within crypto. Like, people, I think, can relate to that word and resonate with it, even outside of crypto. So there was something powerful about that, I think, as a movement or as a cult. And that's when we realized there was an opportunity to perhaps do something beyond just like a meme or an NFT project or just our Discord. And we thought, okay, when we did some merch drops and we did some events, and always we'd have loads of people turn up and it was sold out and everything. So we thought, it's kind of like, it could be cool as a brand. So we then thought, okay, how do we get this brand with this logo in as many places as possible? Like, what we need to have some sort of physical product. But, you have clothing, people have different tastes. It's not really that universal. And with Rekt Guy, the NFT, people, the guy's drinking a drink. So we thought, let's make drinks because they're cheap to manufacture. We can mass produce them. And there are so many crypto events throughout the world during the year that we can just, send our drinks to these events, and it becomes a very natural, like, organic way to market it. So that's kind of how we ended up on drinks. And then, we launched the drinks last year. We launched a token, buy the drinks, get the token. Started off as a meme coin, but we market it now as a brand coin, and things just really took off from there. Way beyond our expectations, I think. But I think it was the success really is from building this community. I think for the 3 years prior to launching a token, like, that was very important, because if we launched this idea without any existing community, it never would have worked. We almost needed that bear market to build that community, if that makes sense.
Well, for sure, bear markets create strong communities, and that's why people are still connected with certain layer ones that are completely dead at this point.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think the first time that I actually saw the Rekt drinks was when I took the flight from Dubai to Singapore. I think it's nearly a year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
With the black and gold ones.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Yep.
How much of an impact did all the KOLs have into the brand, or did you use any? Because for me, it sounds like you kind of took a very Web 2 angle into building this community, where you just product place the product into very technical and tactical places, and from there it starts to blow up.
Yeah, that was the main idea. I'm not really a fan of the typical KOL style marketing, especially for something that you consume, because it's not really that organic, right? And the good thing about KOLs is that you will get someone with a lot of followers will speak about what you want them to speak about, and you will reach an audience. But it's even more powerful or impactful if it can happen organically, where someone just sees it by chance, or sees it out there, or hears it from word of mouth without seeing someone post about it. I think for me, like, when I see a lot of Web 2 marketing and influencers and stuff on Instagram, for example, if I see someone doing a paid promotion, it doesn't really make me want to buy the product. But if I hear my friend say, "Oh, this was really good, you should try it," then I'm more likely to do it. So for us, it was like, okay, let's just send the drinks to as many places as possible, try and get them in front of people so they can try them. And then maybe someone's like, "Oh yeah, I saw that drink on the plane, or I saw it in London, or in Dubai, or whatever it is, and I tried it and I liked it, and I kind of seen the brand now." it takes longer to build something that way because it's not direct. It's not like, hey, see this, I bought this token, this is good, this is going to do this. It's not the same style of marketing, and it may not work, or it may take a very long time to be impactful. But I think if you can pull it off, and if you have some patience around it, it's much more powerful, especially for a brand like ours, I think.
Fair enough, yeah. It's also, I think overall, compared to previous cycle and this cycle, the impact of KOLs and marketing in general has changed a lot. I think, well, you're also working with Raoul Paul. He's a very strong voice, connected himself to Sui, which has a positive impact for Sui. It's also changing into more of a Web2 dynamic, which has a better impact for projects or companies. And then a lot of KOLs are actually not needed or necessary anymore, as a lot of them are copycats anyways. But if we talk about KOLs, you yourself are a brand too. How does it feel for you to all of a sudden be a very important player for the entire Rekt ecosystem and just on social media?
Yeah, I've had to change some things because previously, I'd speak a lot about trading and markets and different tokens and coins and stuff. And, when you have your own project, and I guess like I'm the number one KOL for Rekt, right? Like I'm the person who speaks about it the most. And because it's my project, people are looking to see what I'm saying or doing about it. So when you start speaking, or when you are speaking about other stuff, it sort of dilutes the attention that your own project gets, I think. And I didn't want to be one of those guys who, he only speaks about Rekt, nothing else, because I felt like people found some of the other stuff that I was speaking about quite valuable. So I didn't want to lose that. But as Rekt got bigger and bigger, it was clear to me, it's like, look, I just have to kind of be all in on this now and, not talk about, fine, talk about majors, whatever, but I can't really start saying, hey, I think this other coin is a good trade because, what we're trying to do is get people into Rekt, right? I'm not trying to not say, hey, you guys should sell Rekt and buy this thing because this thing looks better. So it's been a bit of a transition for me. And, sometimes there are things that I would love to say in terms of markets or what I think, but really, I think Rekt is one of the biggest opportunities I've probably ever had in my life. And I have to really, really be all in on it. If that means going all in, it means going all in from every single angle possible, I think. So that's the view and stance that I've taken. And, for the last 3 or 4 months, I haven't spoken about anything else other than Rekt. I've actually stopped trading pretty much. All I've done is work on Rekt. But it's paid its rewards. The token has done really well. We've had some good sellouts. And I think people are, on the outside, are seeing that energy or seeing that shift in momentum. And that's, for me, when I think about coins or equities or anything that I want to buy, where it's founder-led, you want to see that founder is all in on it. You want to see that that's all he's doing, sleeps, eats, Rekt, nothing else. And then that's when I realized, okay, I've got to be the same. If I'm thinking about what I would put my money in, that's what I would want to see. So it's been a big shift in energy from me in the last few months. And part of that, I think, is because, we just had a lot of very interesting phone calls and people reaching out to us and a good feeling behind what we were doing and some very strong momentum. And that's when I realized that I would be stupid to not put my everything into this opportunity because it's probably the biggest opportunity I'll ever get.
I mean, I truly admire the way that you're talking about it because we see, I think hundreds of projects on a monthly basis with our venture capital. And one of the key ones is the founder actually putting all the time into the project, or do they have side businesses or not? Maybe if it is pre-seed, it makes sense to not have all your time dedicated towards the project. You just need income yourself. But once you get towards a further stage, you want a founder to be all in and just believe in the project and do not have any escape routes out of there. But for us as a VC, we should also run the numbers a little bit. And in Rekt's case, it's worth 350 million or so. It actually went to 600, I think, 500-600. Yeah. If someone comes to you that's an institutional or a random guy on the streets, how do you explain the valuation to those people?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think it's important to understand that Rekt is what we call a brand coin. And I say brand coins are a subcategory of meme coins. What's the definition of meme coins? Sure, like they're coins that represent memes, but the real definition is that they don't have any utility and they don't receive or benefit from any direct cash flows. They trade purely based on sentiment, human feeling, like how funny do I find this meme or whatever. It's an emotional, sentimental thing. And when it's something like that, like art, for example, you cannot value it with a model. There's no model-driven way to value it. You can't do a DCF analysis on it. You can't do, revenue multiple, whatever it is. There's no model-driven way to value it. It's just human sentiment. And that, I think, is a very important concept. That's why something like Pepe can go to billions of dollars or Doge can go to billions of dollars. It's why something like Beeple's 5,000 days can sell for $69 million, right? It's just human emotion, sentiment. You can't place a number on it. So the same concept actually, in my opinion, exists with brands, right? Why would someone buy a Red Bull over a less expensive generic energy drink? They're buying it for the brand. Like, why would you spend 3 times your money on a Nike hoodie versus a plain hoodie? Because you just have you have the sentimental attachment to like the Nike brand, right? And it's, that same concept applies with brands. And this is why I think it's a very powerful thought process to apply to tokens, because it's the same thing as meme coins where like people, okay, I really like the Rekt brand. I'm not buying it because I did like a cash flow analysis on it. I'm buying it because I like the brand and I want to be a part of it. And I was in the bear market and I had my Rekt NFT and I feel like a part of this movement. Like, but it's, it's a brand with a product. But I really feel like I'm part of that brand from a sentimental standpoint. And so when you put that angle on it, there's, 350 million, 600 million, billion, whatever the number is, that's just a reflection of the sentiment around it. And that concept actually exists in traditional corporate finance. Like every company has a line item on their balance sheet called goodwill, which happens when a company gets acquired, and it's the premium paid above its net asset value. So Coca-Cola, for example, has an $18 billion goodwill line item on its balance sheet from all its acquisitions that it's paid a premium for. And accountants usually equate that to the intangible value of the brand. They say, this is like, you would pay extra for, Coca-Cola's buying whatever, let's just Pepsi, or bad example, Coca-Cola's buying, Coca-Cola's buying like Poppy, for example, the Poppy drink. They're paying like 2 times its value because that's like the intangible value of the brand. That then goes into its balance sheet. It's a real number. That's considered like a traditional way to account for something. The concept of goodwill has been around for over a century, but it's just a number that is intangible, it's fixed, it's governed by a one-off transaction by 2 parties in a historical moment in time, and maybe it gets impaired by an accountant over the years. It's intangible, right? But this concept is the same as like a brand coin or what we're talking about, except in crypto, you can trade it. There's a market for it. Millions of dollars of volume will go through every single day, and you can choose to buy it. If you disagree with the value, you can choose to short it. It's active. And that's how I'm kind of like equating the two things. It's like, it's not a new concept that we're using here, but it's an example of how crypto has allowed us to trade these pre-existing concepts that have actually been around for decades, if not centuries.
If we talk about the difference between a meme and a brand coin, a meme coin, back in 2021, we had NFTs and meme coins where it was basically tried to establish a community that has a utility through the token itself. I think Yuga Labs has been trying it, and there were some other ones also trying to do that. With Rekt, what are you getting from the ecosystem once you buy the token?
Yeah, the way I would frame it is it's less so about what you're getting from the ecosystem from buying the token. It's more what you're getting when you buy the drinks, when you buy the product. So a lot of these, stuff like Yuga Labs, etc. in the past, you would generally like buy the NFT, and then maybe you would get airdrops, right? In this situation, you're buying the actual product, which is a drink, and in return for that drink, you're getting, well, first you get a drink that you can actually drink. Hopefully you like it and it doesn't go to waste. But you then get this token, this coin, which moves up or down based on brand sentiment. So the idea is like, okay, look, we all have our favorite brands that we want to support. How do you usually support them? You buy their products. maybe you tell your friends about it, you share the link on your socials, and then if that brand kills it in the next 5 years, you've actually played a real part in that as an early supporter, but you don't benefit from it at all. You have nothing to show for it. They actually end up paying influencers instead of you to market it, right? But in this case, it's like, cool, I really like Rekt drinks. I really like the story. I'm going to go out there, going to buy the drinks, and I'm going to get this Rekt coin. And if I hold on to it and it does really well over the next 3 or 4 years, it should appreciate in value. And that's how you're getting rewarded. So that's kind of like how I'm viewing it. Now, you may say, okay, well, what about someone who's like, cool, I want to speculate on Rekt. I'm just going to buy a Rekt coin. Like, what's the utility? What do I get for that? And that's where I think it's important to understand that you're taking a bet on the reputation of Rekt improving, the sentiment of Rekt improving. Probably taking a bet on the operational performance of it improving, not directly through a specific revenue stream to buy back the token yet. Like, that's definitely a possibility in the future. But, if all these things are related, right? If we make loads of money, the brand is doing really well, the brand reputation increases, we can spend more on marketing, everything generally improves. So it really is, in my opinion, a bet on the success. But because it's intangible, it's a way to have this instrument people can trade without, having to go through securities law and all that kind of stuff, basically.
I get you. A few things though. If there is a token component, then there is also an expectations component from people that are following you.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over and over again, also with my personal content, that people put you basically on top of the hill. They have high expectations, especially when there's positive sentiment. Rekt has a lot of it. What is your game plan once the tables are turning for a little? There's always going to be a moment that the coin is going to drop. And you need to be ready for it in order to stimulate the community again. Or what's the game plan for your case?
Yeah, look, if this was something that would happen, let's say 6 to 9 months ago, or maybe when we launched, then I would be worried. I think it would be really tough for us to bounce back from it. However, I think we're sitting at a point now where we will have sold 1 million drinks in under 12 months as of the end of this week. And I'm very confident we will have big distribution of drinks in the US. We'll be, in a large amount of stores there next year. We will have the same in the UK and Europe. We'll have a wider product range and a lot of interest from the traditional beverage industry. So all of these things don't really get that impacted by the drop of the token. Maybe it's a reputational thing, sure. Maybe people start to raise questions. But at the end of the day, when you have these numbers on the table already, and you already have the achievements under your belt, and you communicate a story about, look, this is going to be volatile. We'll have cyclicality, but the business doesn't depend on monetizing the token in order to fund its operations, right? It depends on selling drinks. And if we can get this traditional distribution out there, it won't really matter too much about the token. Sure, like people will get high rewards in good times, low rewards in bad times, and then we'll have high sales and low sales, just like any other business will have if it has seasonality, for example. But so long as we can just get this stuff over the line, then I think it's not too big of a problem if the token drops. And I would say, look, we've been around for almost 4 years now. The entire community was literally born in a bear market when everything was zero for a very long time and people still stuck around. Our token dropped 90% in April. We dropped all the way down to $13 million market cap, and we've bounced back from that. We had another 50% drop and we've bounced back from that. So every time you get crushed and you show that you're able to bounce back, people will, and you'll have new people coming in to buy your dips and support your ecosystem because they know that you as a founder or as a team are resilient and have the ability to live through it and get through it, and the determination as well. And I think that's one of the things. When a crypto project gets its first big drop, many people just give up, right? And whatever. You can then play the soft rug card or whatever, and people just walk away and move on. But if you've demonstrated multiple times that you've dropped and then come back, each time you hopefully create a higher high and you get more people in. So I think to answer your question, there's two different things there. One thing is like, we will hopefully, and we are, I think, in advanced stages of having revenues that aren't dependent on the token, that are sort of in the traditional beverage world, and it's not our or my first rodeo in terms of getting crushed. Like it will happen again at some point, but we will live through it and bounce back from it just like we always have.
What's been the biggest challenge so far in the past 4 years?
Man, the biggest challenge, hands down, over everything in the last 4 years is manufacturing a physical product. Like, you'll appreciate this. Like when you're trading, you set out your computer, you click some buttons, the trader's on. It's like things happen quickly, right? You can act quickly. You have the risk on. Everything's done. When you're manufacturing a drink, like there's so many moving parts. You have to print the cans, manufacture the cans, get the recipe, get the ingredients for the liquid, make sure the cans don't explode when you fill the cans, transport them to a different factory, make sure they don't get damaged, like so many different things. And like, if one thing gets delayed, it delays the whole process. Like, it's very time intensive. There's lots of things that can go wrong. And, unlike someone like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, we don't have the economies of scale where we have the vertical integration of owning all the factories and stuff. Sometimes when you're a trader and you're trading for yourself, the only thing that really matters is yourself. Everything depends on you as a person, which I think is good because I rely on myself as a person. But when you do something like this, you rely on multiple different parties and individuals and teams and stuff. And, that's why I wish we could just move so quickly and get these things done and roll out. And that's been the biggest hurdle to us not growing even more quickly. It's like you have to depend and rely on other partners to do various parts of physical production, which can go wrong, can take time, have delays, whatever. The work ethic in crypto and finance is a strong work ethic. Like we, in crypto is kind of crazy actually. People who are in the trenches, these guys are literally trenching whatever it is 24/7. We have that sort of work ethic where it's like, okay, I'm going to just keep going until the job is done, right? But the work ethic in other industries is not the same, and that's another thing that I think I've struggled with. So one day we will own our own factories and everyone will have the same work ethic as me and will be efficient. But until then,
I mean, it's super relatable when I talk to friends that are not working crypto and they start talking about the day-to-day life, and I'm like, whoa, that's relaxed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just keep on going. And my girlfriend reminds me, and she's also working in the company, and she reminds me of the relationship and the time off that we need to spend, because crypto can just drag you down, and the partners that you work with are always so active, short deadlines, otherwise you're not in it. But I can see that for manufacturing something or building a real company, it takes a lot of time and effort to actually get something to go. In terms of the challenges right now for the drinks, is it increasing supply? Or what's the biggest challenge right now?
Yeah, I don't think it's increasing supply, but I think...
Or stock, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's more producing... so we've sold them in drops. They're kind of like limited edition drops. We had the original one. This one, for example, is the next one we have coming, which is a collaboration with MoonPay. We did a collaboration with Abstract. So we have like lots of people lined up to do drops who want to collaborate with us, which I think will do really well, both in Web3 and also in Web2 and other stuff. But, if I could like manufacture 10 of them at the same time and have them all done in a month, that would be great, because then we could, really do a cool way to release them and stuff like that. So it's more just the speed of getting this stuff out. When we do the traditional distribution stuff, I think it will come a point where it's like, okay, someone really likes the drink. We now need to manufacture 5 million units, 10 million units, like a large number. And that I think is going to be the next part of scaling and growing for us, which we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it, I think.
Will it be 7-Eleven?
Could be, yeah. I mean, like we did... we have a very good relationship with them through a drinks consultant we have in the US who's been in the beverage space for about 20 years. And we did some 7-Eleven store launches in LA earlier this year. The other thing that we've done, which I think is worth mentioning, is we have a collaboration with GameSquare, which is a NASDAQ-listed company, and GameSquare owns FaZe Esports. So as part of that partnership, they actually own some Rekt coin on their balance sheet. But we'll be able to do like a FaZe esports collaboration product, collaboration drink. They did that with a different drinks company back in 2023, and that was the highest selling energy product across all 7-Eleven stores in the US. And I think they made something like, the press release said $75 million worth of sales in a 2-year period for FaZe licensed products. So that's a really big opportunity for us. Obviously, 7-Eleven are familiar with that as an IP. And we'll have some good stuff coming in over the next few weeks and months for sure.
Well, I mean, I think once you get into those stores, that's the next big step forward when it comes to those drinks. There are numerous places where you can drop the drink, and I'm sure that the people will take it or will drink it. A lot of crypto bros are in Asia somewhere, so that's also probably really good. But the important question then is, when are we going to hear about the first treasury company that's listed on Nasdaq being a Rekt dot?
Yeah. Look, we've spent a lot of time actually exploring doing it ourselves, trying to get into other DATs, etc. And you had this moment when DATs were really hot for a while, especially the ETH treasury companies and everything trading at a massive premium. Everything came down, obviously, just like any other sector, right? Like it gets oversaturated and the kind of magic of it goes away. I think the reality is if we did just a Rekt specific one, we could probably raise maybe like 50 to 100 mil for it, in my opinion, like quite easily. But there's so many other variables and hurdles you have to get over the line in order to do something like that, right? You have to find a clean shell company with no existing litigation. You then have the cost of actually running that over the next few years, which will, it's a 7-figure cost. You have to, entice people with a discount in order to invest in the vehicle as well. And at the end of the day, people are only going to put money into this thing if it's guaranteed to trade at a premium at launch, which is becoming less clear now. So it's still out there as an idea, and we still have ongoing conversations with other people. I think for us, it's probably more powerful to be part of a DAT with other tokens in it, where we get some demand, and that way we don't have to bear the operational cost of it. But the reality is, I think most money wants to go into ETH. Maybe I think some money will go into punks, for example. But when you start to go beyond that, within the Ethereum ecosystem, it's a slippery slope. It's like, well, okay, well, why don't you just put this coin in and this coin in and this meme coin in? And it just kind of, and like, I don't actually buy the narrative that people are buying this stuff because they don't have access to buy crypto. I think people are just buying this stuff to play the game. It's my opinion. So,
is that the same for things like DeFi? For instance, like Chainlink, Aave, like the considerable blue chips in this space?
Yeah, I think it's similar. Honestly, I think it's similar for everything. I was like so bullish on this DAT stuff at the beginning, and the way it's transpired, it doesn't feel like the demand has truly fed through, apart from on ETH. But that's legit. I think there's legit money going into that and legit money buying it. Then you had all this other like fake stuff where it's not really legit money. It's like hey, here are the tokens at a discount, and then you use the money to buy some tokens, but it's like it's not really like it's not real. So it has a place. There's a very strong argument for let's get access to crypto for people who don't have access to crypto. And if you think about capital, I know people who have a lot of capital in their equity brokerage accounts, and it's so much easier they will pay a 10-20% premium to just buy it and not have to move their capital to Coinbase and then buy crypto. So that's that part of it is true. But I think we either need to see the market get a bit more mature, or you need a couple more success stories where it's been done really well. And maybe even something like Octo was up crazy amount at the beginning, right, when that WildCoin thing. But you probably need like a really good success story, I think, for capital to keep flowing into it. Because it's probably not sticky capital either, right? Like these guys are selling on the unlocks, moving to the next one. No different to how people would trade on Pump Fan or this other stuff, right? Like just rotation game.
Well, Pump is doing great.
Yes.
And the most coins are actually VC plays, and recently also the base ecosystem is considering launching a token.
Yep.
I'm sure that's going to be the biggest one of this cycle. But when we talk about tokens, how stressful was it to have an airdrop being launched, and then God knows what happens to the token at launch?
Yeah, honestly, I think that is really stressful. And then, you know, when you get listed on centralized exchanges, there's often a big airdrop associated with that. So like, even like, we airdrop tokens when we sell drinks, right? Because they get the tokens. So, but yeah, that first one, the very first launch was like super stressful because it's like, you have no idea how it's going to go. And we spent so much time on this, you know, like over a year, and trying to put everything together. And it all comes, your success, even though you spend a whole year, your success all comes down to one day. And, you know, I'm sure you've seen the same. Like, there's many tokens that just die in one day because they messed something up. They didn't do something correctly. The LP was messed up, whatever it is. And they never come back. They never bounce back. And so, and I've seen that happen. And I've actually been an LP in tokens that just died on day one because they messed something up and, you know, lost money on that. And then the project completely dies. So for me, it was a big fear because it's like, you know, this is a real community. There's real people. We've done a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, and we can't just, you know, lose everything in one day. But I think, you know, having been in the space for a while, having seen things go wrong, seen things go well, I felt like I had a good understanding of what we needed to do to make sure it was a success. Still, you don't know how people are going to react, and you don't know how much sell pressure there's going to be and all that kind of stuff. But on the whole, you know, what you really need, and every project needs this, is you need a good group of whales who believe in you and want to support you and have the capital to support you. And I think for us, it's always been a case of like, okay, big airdrop's coming. We know it's coming. Let's get people in saying you can have an opportunity to buy this. And if we can accumulate all the supply, it's going to go higher again once the airdrop's done selling, right? And that's generally the airdrop play. I think most people know it's going to go one of two ways. Either people will step in and buy the airdrop, or they won't. And it doesn't happen by magic. We can't just sit there and hope people will come in. We have to actually go out there. It's almost like going on a roadshow. It's like, you know, I'm calling people up saying, hey, there's going to be an airdrop. There's going to be a dip. I think this is going to be a good opportunity to buy. Like, here's the pitch. You have to be, as a founder, have to actively be doing that, I think. And that's what we did. That's what we did when we launched it. We had some good whales involved, and it's been good for them because they all made a lot of money on it. And then, you know, if you make a lot of money for people, they trust you more on the next thing, right? So I think that's how it slowly builds up over time, I would say.
How many times were you refreshing the charts in the first days? What were you doing?
I literally have a tick by tick chart on my on my screen the whole time.
Yeah.
Tick by tick on my phone when I'm off the desk, like just the whole time.
Are you still checking it so many times? Or?
Yeah, I have the chart up at all times. I have 4 screens here, right up there. I have it at all times. I have it on my phone. You know, people say don't be obsessed with price and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's really important. You know, let's call a spade a spade. People are looking at the price. Our community is looking at the price. Whales are looking at the price. So I have to have an awareness of that, because I have to have an awareness of how people are feeling. I have to have awareness of our reputation. You know, all these things matter, and that can sometimes dictate how I should tweet or how I should be on the timeline. Or, you know, if you're having a period where your price is down a lot, it's like, cool, like let's bring some ammunition in. Like, what on our timeline can we announce and get out there and give people a bit of confidence and show people there's a roadmap and stuff like that. You know, I think it's really relevant. I think you have to, you know, you shouldn't tweet about your price the whole time, perhaps, as a founder, but you should really be, if you're managing a community, you have to be aware of the sentiment. You know, it's like if you're a manager of a football team or a captain of a football team, you have to have your dressing room behind you, right? You can't lose the dressing room, otherwise you get fired. And I think this is the same concept, I would say.
If we talk about like Web 2 and Web 3, Rekt is the first brand coin. Back in 2021, we saw a lot of big brands, I think even Louis Vuitton and some other ones, were trying to navigate the NFT space or creating a token. We have Chili's that is building fan tokens for football clubs. Do you think that just with, if we compare it with stablecoins, where a lot of big players are now also starting to issue a stablecoin, because of the fact that Rekt works and you as a brand have an entire ecosystem, that big Web2 institutions like Nike or Coca-Cola are more eager and willing to step in because they see the fact that there is a success?
I think my answer to that actually is no. I think someone like Nike doesn't need to launch a token, right? They're huge, they're massive. But for someone like us, where it's like, hey, we're a new drinks company, how do we compete with Coca-Cola or Pepsi? We have to have something different, right? And with these tokens, with brand coins, people are wanting to support a challenger story, an underdog story. It's like, it's like, okay, we're gonna buy a Rekt coin, and our goal is to flip Coca-Cola, or our goal is to like be up there with Pepsi and all that kind of stuff, right? That's the feeling people have within them. Whereas if Coca-Cola or Pepsi launched a coin, and no disrespect to them, they're great and amazing brands, and they've obviously, the big mammoths in the industry, but it doesn't have the same underdog kind of feeling or the same kind of vibe, right? And the other thing about tokens is, generally, as it stands, most of your community will be crypto native people. And I think crypto native people want to support crypto native projects. It's kind of like NFTs, right? You remember all the celebrities that did NFTs or celebrity meme coins? Like, they never do well because our feeling as crypto native people is someone outside of our industry is coming in just because they think there's money to be made from us and they're trying to extract from us. That's the vibe people get. Whereas if you're a crypto native project and then you're sort of like not attacking, but competing against the outside industries, the people are like, yeah, we want to get behind this. We want to get behind Pudgy Penguins because this is crypto. This is the face of crypto, and we're trying to go out there and compete against the rest of the world. That's the kind of feeling, I think. So I think it's very hard for big existing brands to come and do it. I think if you're a new brand and you have a very loyal community, then it makes sense because it rewards your community, and people I think will appreciate that. But it has to be done really well. Tokens, launching a token and managing a token is not an easy thing. And just like startups, most of them fail. Like 99% of them fail, or they never really get off the ground. And you have to know that. It's a big risk for an existing brand to come in and try and do it. And the bigger your reputation already is, the bigger your risk is, and the worse your risk reward is in doing it, I think.
What are some lessons you've learned from launching a token? If there is someone out there that's going to launch one, that they should take away from you.
The main thing is, I would say, is if you're not all in on what you're doing, then don't launch it, because your token will forever be tied to you. People will forever perceive you based on how well your token is doing. It's tied to your reputation. If it goes badly, you will always be remembered for the one that, didn't do well or rugged your token. Even if your token doesn't do well, people will call you a rug puller or call it a soft rug, even if it's not true. So it's like there's no turning back. Once you go down that path, there's no turning back, and you better do it really well. That game maybe is changing a bit because, you have Zora, you have content creator coins. Alex Becker did his token yesterday, generated fees, gave it to people. I'm sure people probably won't care about how that token does in the future. So it's changing a little bit where sort of like moments are being tokenized rather than like entire lifetimes being tokenized. And that potentially is a different thing. But, you have to know, like, it's no joke. And it takes a toll. Like, tokens are public. You have people commenting on what you're doing every single day. So you have to, from a mental and psychological standpoint, you have to be up to it. It's going to take a toll on you mentally. And if you're weak mentally or you get hurt easily and that kind of stuff, it's going to be tough. So you have to really understand this. The whole package is definitely not for the faint-hearted, I would say.
That's one. And the other one is the impact of VCs. And Rekt doesn't have any VC investments. I think there are a few angel investors connected to it. What made you decide to not go for a VC? And how is your view on VCs in general within the Web3 ecosystem?
Look, I think VCs probably get too bad of a reputation in crypto. I think, VCs are like people, right? You have good people and bad people. and you have good VCs and bad VCs. That's how I view it. So when we raised, it was intentional to not take any VC money. The main reason is because we wanted all the tokens to be fully circulating on day one. And I think you've just seen a lot of tokens in the last 2 or 3 years where high FTV, low float, big VC tickets, starts really high in price, unlocks, comes down, 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 project dies. That's just generally been the lifespan. So my thought was like, okay, let's just release all the tokens day one. People want to sell, they sell. Let's start low, and then let's build the business, because then, you know, we can try and progress higher and have some hope for going higher, right? It's really hard to bounce back from a big dip or from like just a perpetual sell pressure than it is to have all the selling on day one. You know, it's like how you trade a chart, right? Sometimes we're like, just everyone sell now, like just nuke the whole chart. We'll come in and buy, and then let's clean everything, clean the leverage out, clean the positioning out, and then it's nice and clean. So we wanted to have that aspect of it. And so, you know, most VCs would have required SAFs or token warrants. If we had SAFs or token warrants, we'd have to have a 6-month lockup or a 12-month lockup in the US. It would have changed it a little bit. And then I think the other thing was just messaging. You know, we wanted this to feel like, okay, this is just for our community. You know, most of our investors are people in our community. Many of the angels were people who wrote their first angel tickets, who don't get to see this deal flow. I wanted to have more of that feeling like this is a real community-led project rather than like a VC type project. So that's how we started. But, you know, I've been speaking to a lot of VCs and liquid funds over the last 6 months, and a lot of these guys are now in the token and they understand it. And I'm very close, people that I've known for years as well who are in it, who are at VCs. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not an anti-VC coin, but for it to be successful, I think we had to do it the way we did it to start. And yes, it would have been great for VCs to get in on that valuation, but we were also at that valuation for a long time, and VCs ended up buying it in April, for example, when we dropped below that valuation, the raised valuation. So the opportunity, I think, is always there, but starting it that way gave us a very strong community feel and power, I think, and a strong message as well.
Yeah, I think VCs are not as bad as a lot of people are saying they are bad, because ultimately people have been buying a token themselves and they just blame the VC because it's the obvious one. But I do believe that the entire VC landscape is still undefined, or like a lot of valuations are way too high. And then you have cases like Mantra DAO and Mir lately that are just using the float to get the price up an X amount. So I think that if you are willing to be a venture capital, you want to invest in startups, the valuations in those rounds need to come down in order to basically mitigate the risk of having a token being locked up as long as it is. Otherwise, you're better off buying liquid, like Rekt at a certain valuation. At that point in time, you can just sell it whatever you want. So I think the VC landscape is still something that needs to, be bettered or be optimized. And in your case, in the way you have been launching the token, the community had actually an opportunity to get in themselves, which with those high valuations is just not the case. Looking forward to the next years, how do you see community-based tokens expand? Will there be some sort of new community-based cycle taking place that we've seen in 2021? Or
yeah, the stuff is changing a little bit, where number one, you have content creator coins. Number two, you have a big rise in InfoFi and the way people get rewarded now.
True.
So it's changing a little bit, where if a project wants to give an airdrop, they want to make sure that people are working for it, if that makes sense, or at least providing some value to it. And that's where InfoFi, I think, is quite interesting. The problem with InfoFi is AI, and everyone just, going to ChatGPT, AI slop. We even see it in Rekt. Like, I see the same ChatGPT paragraphs posted by like 10 different people on Rekt. So, the concept of InfoFi is very strong, but there needs to be a way of regulating the information that people put out on it. But I think the future of like community-led coins will be stuff where like someone feels like they've worked for it or contributed to it. in a way that's more than just like farming or, you know, washing trays or whatever. They feel like they've provided some sort of value or pitched a story or a message, and then they get appropriately rewarded for it. And then they feel really part of that community, and that's how that community forms. I think that's the future of it. And InfoFi is probably the best, you know, stuff like Kaito probably has the best foot forward in it, but it still needs to be solved for quality content. You know, I don't know how that gets solved in a decentralized way. It's a very difficult thing to do unless you improve, you know, unless you have a counter AI which downgrades stuff when it can tell it's been written by. That's probably what you need, right? Kaito needs a counter AI to be like, okay, I can tell this is AI generated. It's not valuable. It's not original, and you will get downvoted or downgraded based on that. Like, that's probably what you need, I think.
It's also a standard social media, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, if I tweet something out, the comments and all the things are just bots everywhere.
Yes.
It's just, it became awful to just be on social media and read comments. It depends on which platform you're looking at.
Yep.
If you're going to YouTube, it's a little bit better. But then a lot of the views or engagement is just completely fake. And then you can use that to get mindshare on Kaito.
Yeah.
Which we need to get some ethical compass or ethical frameworks where it becomes real again. Which I think for X, for instance, it needs to be done by KYC, I would say.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to use X if they need to do KYC. Or maybe through a DAO.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Or is that too complex of a hurdle to take if you want to make it a little bit more better?
It could work. It could work. But yeah, I don't know. That would be the decentralized option for it, but it's complex.
Which is still
complex.
also not defined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very complex. I mean, how many years are we trying to get a real DAO going?
Yeah, I know.
It's for a really long time.
If you want to get stuff done, don't have a DAO because things never get done with a DAO.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
It's like if you create a DAO, you become our country. It's just like debating for endless and endless times, and then you have a vote, and then yay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same as in the UK with the referendum back in the day. But if we look at the future or at the brand of Rekt, if Rekt guy or Rekt in general has the opportunity to work with one partner, one mainstream, well, maybe even brand or football club, who would it be in your opinion?
Good question. That's a really good question. I would love to work with someone like I'm gonna pick golf because I think that is
Oh, nice.
I think that's one of the biggest, fastest growing sports right now, and I think the demographic that follows that is the exact demographic that we have. And so if we could get someone like Scotty Scheffler or, you know, one of these like top 5 golfers to be an ambassador of Rekt, like that would be my first pick.
To be honest, I'm a huge golfer.
Oh, nice, me
so
too. Yeah.
I'm playing it during summer almost every day.
Nice.
Well, maybe if you look at what golf is doing, a lot of those players, for instance, Bryson, is on YouTube trying to make it mainstream.
I know, it's crazy.
He's probably the best example of what Rekt could do together. Yeah, that's going to be a big one. That's a good pick. I like that. What's one finance mindset you still use daily as a founder?
One finance mindset that I still use daily as a founder. Just P&L. Everything's P&L still. Like even as like every decision you make is like, if we're going to spend money on that, like what's the return? Is it worth it? Opportunity cost. Is there a better way to spend that money? Everything's always P&L. Like, we don't spend dollars on sponsorship just to sponsor things. But we're like, okay, if we sponsor something here, what's the direct? How can we measure the return? Number one. Number two, like what's the direct penetration for us? And if we can't evaluate that, then we don't do it. We do very little sponsorship actually right now. That will change. I think that's how. Yeah.
Is it not like doing sponsorships are super abstract to like extract all the data from?
It's hard, especially for us, because we don't have a fully stocked store at all times, so we can't even measure the sales data from it. So it's usually like, okay, if we sponsor this is a strategic partner. You know, maybe these guys are going to buy a Rekt token, or maybe these guys will give us an intro for a potential collaboration further down the line, or have a collaboration drink or a product. And I think every sponsorship that we've done, very few of them, there's something that comes out at the end of it, which will be revenue generating for us. And that's how I view it right now. I think that will change. You know, when we get to the stage where our drinks are on Amazon and they're in stores, and we always have a stock store on Rekt.com, then we will do, you know, more traditional sponsorships, and then we'll measure it. We'll measure the sales data. Hey, we did this ad, or this person had a ref link. Let's see what the data is coming through. The ones that do well, you keep. Do more of it. The ones that do badly, you get rid of it, right? But we're not mature enough yet to be able to measure that data. But that's how I would like to approach it when we are.
If the year is 2030, how do you see the crypto markets in that year, or like 5 years from now?
Man, 5 years is a long time, because think of...
It's actually a cycle.
Yeah, think of crypto 5 years ago. It was like COVID, right? Right.
Yep.
Was whatever, 8K, 3K or something like that. I can't remember. I think we'll be in a situation where things will be very interoperable and omni-chain. So even you saw Base yesterday announced like the Base Solana bridge. I think you won't really care about like what chain you're on. You'll have apps that will be omni-chain, that will sit on top of multiple different chains. You will probably end up having, within the L1s, I think you'll probably end up having like 2 or 3 winners, really. Not loads of L1s that have worked out that well. You know, they'll still have high market caps just based on who holds the coins and people not selling and stuff like that. But they'll kind of be like dinosaur chains, in my opinion. But you'll have 2 or 3 winners, but they'll be big winners, like really, really big winners. That will be, you know, for L1s, like 5, 10x the levels they are now, I think, which is a big move for these L1s. And I do believe that you will have many more apps that are on chain, which people won't know they're on chain, and people will have their own wallets they connect to with Privy. You know, you're not going to connect your Gmail to your wallet, which has like $10 million of Bitcoin on. That will never happen. But for the everyday consumer, believe it or not, most of these guys aren't degenning with $10 million. So the everyday consumer, you might have like $100 in this thing that you log in with your, you know, just like how you would have, you know, on any other normal Web 2 interface that you use. But a lot of things will be on chain. Stuff like loyalty points, I think, make a lot of sense to be on chain, have monetary value. And I think you'll also see a lot of more capital having flown into crypto. You know, 401ks now, you can put crypto in that. But I think you'll be in a situation where like pretty much every single asset manager or every investment portfolio will have an allocation to crypto, primarily Bitcoin, but probably some other stuff too, I think.
That's actually good. I think ultimately we're going to use blockchain without knowing that we're using blockchain. Otherwise, you can't onboard everyone. I keep on saying, I don't know how HTTP works. I don't care.
Yep.
I just want the internet page to load and to work, and I'm happy. If we look ahead from now, it's probably going to be a season where risk on is going to be great, so altcoins are going to go up. What advice would you give to traders going into this phase of the cycle?
Yeah.
As a very, well,
yeah,
OG in the market.
Yeah, the alt season game is a tricky one, because it's not, it feels like more and more increasingly now, it's not everything that's going to rally, and there may be certain things that will and certain things that won't. I would say pick your narrative, what you know, the narrative you want to support, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 narratives, pick your coins, and then hold on to them. I think if you get obsessed with trying to catch the best performing coin every single day, you will just lose money. You'll kill yourself chopping and changing. And I think where I've lost money in bull markets is like, my coin didn't pump, but this one's pumping. Shit, I should buy that one. You buy that one then goes down. The one you held goes up. And then it's like, man, everything's going up in this market, but you're somehow losing money because you keep moving your position. So I think you need to have like your core positions and you kind of need to stick with it, and you need to have conviction in it. This is the hard part. You need to have conviction in it, and you have to be aware that your coin isn't always going to be up every single day or every single week, and you may have periods where it's underperforming, but you have to kind of like stick through it, because then when it gets moving, you're going to find it very hard to catch that movement. And I've always found it easy to buy dips and easy to hold on to my coins that don't perform. But the hardest thing that I find is when a coin is already up a lot, you sell a coin, then it goes up a lot, and you're like, shit, this could go even higher, but you don't want to. You're like, I don't want to buy it because it's already done 2x or 3x, and that's the hardest thing. And you don't want to be in that position. You want to be in a position where you're deciding whether it's done in 2 or 3x, and you're deciding, should I take some off here, rather than you want to be thinking like, for these big moves, you want to be thinking, shall I sell some because I already have this position, rather than shall I buy some, and that comes from being early and holding on to your positions through thick and thin. If your narrative is wrong and your coins are wrong, it's a very tough thing to do, and that's where you have to have conviction, I think. And every cycle there are always coins that will perform regardless. They may not be the best performer coins, but they will perform. Mm-hmm. And if you want to play it more safe, then just pick those.
That's actually good advice. It's also kind of what I'm trying to do. Right now, a lot of those coins aren't moving. But if you pick WorldCoin, for instance, it took 3 days to triple.
Yeah.
And then it's super hard to get back into it because the risk has increased substantially. So you rather want to be into an asset that has done nothing to have fundamental conviction and then just let it go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not easy, but crypto isn't easy. Looking ahead for the rest of this year, next year, what's in it for Rekt? What are you excited about?
Yeah, look, I'm really excited about the phase partnership we spoke about earlier. I think we are on this level now where we're going to transform this company from like a startup drinks company crypto thing to a much more fully fledged brand that's competing with some of the bigger players. I was putting together my presentation for Korea Blockchain Week, which I'm doing a keynote at next week, and one of the slides talks about the functional beverage space, and so not just sparkling water, but like energy drinks, hydration drinks, creatine, focused energy, all this kind of stuff, right? And compound annual growth rate of that sector right now is like 10% a year almost. It's just going through the roof because of the way consumer trends are going. And in the last 12 months, you've had 4 big capital markets transactions, which have been Ollie, Pop, Poppy, Lani Nutrition, and Ghost Energy, which have all raised out or sold for valuations between $1.5 to $2 billion. And these are companies that are just 7 to 9 years old, very new companies. And they've gone from zero to $500 million annual revenues in the space of a few years because they're good products and good brands, but also because just that space is going through the roof. And they've done very well through social media. Social media is what's pushed a lot of these things, like Prime, for example. And I think the next wave and iteration of brands will be Web3, will be stuff like brand coins. That's the new thing. So I feel like we're in a super high growth traditional drinks and nutrition space. The very unique component with the brand coin stuff that brings in Web3. And we've had a very strong first year in terms of sales, and selling 1 million drinks without distribution all from our website is something that's pretty much unheard of, and being profitable is unheard of in the drinks world. So the next thing that I'm excited about is, we've 4x our revenues from last year. Now when we 3 to 5x these revenues for the next year and the year after, that's when it starts to get really exciting because the numbers are much bigger and we start to make some bigger headlines outside of the space. And, like Pudgy Penguins is the best example of a team that's done really well, taken crypto IP to the masses and just grown that brand like crazy. And they're now 3 or 4 years into that journey from when Luca took it over, and we're just about finishing year 1. So that's the way I would view it, and I think there's a lot to come on that front that I'm super excited about, that we'll have announcements on over the next few weeks and months.
Well, I'm also very interested to see how you guys are going to develop in the coming year. If people are looking to get into the Rekt ecosystem or follow you, I know you're doing a lot of podcasting and shows yourself. Where can people find you and Rekt?
Yeah, you can follow me at OSF_Rekt on X. At Rekt Drinks is our handle across X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We're pretty much on everything now, and we have our next drinks drop coming up on Friday. So you'll be in time for it if you're watching this still, hopefully. So yes, if you head over to Rekt Drinks or rekt.com as well, all the information on that drop is there.
All right. Thank you very much for being part. Looking forward to seeing you at Cebu Live.
Yes, of course.
And looking forward to see what Rekt is going to do. So thank you for joining the show, and all the best with building the company.
Appreciate it. Always a pleasure.